Welcome to our today's science lesson that is still on plants. But now, last time we discussed about dealing with how weeds and other things affect crops, and also we discussed how the plants should be cared and how we depend on each other as plants and animals. We discussed how the plants cannot survive without the presence of animals, and how the animals can't survive in the absence of plants. Now today we are going to discuss now a very essential area where now we are going to talk about the pests. We have a topic where we discussed about the weeds and the causes of how weeds affect the plants, but now here we are going to discuss now how the pests affects the crops. Now first of all, we must understand what is a pest or what is a crop pest. Now when we are discussing about a crop pest, this is just an organism or an animal that now feeds or destroy, it feeds and destroy the plants. For example, if we have a maize plant and we may that now we have a pest, for example armyworm, or we have a cutworm that is moving within the crops, so we may get that it affects some parts of the crop, or it may affect the whole of the plants. Now we have two types of crop pests. These crop pests are divided into, that is the storage and the field pest. Now we have the storage pest and the field pest. From the term field, it means it attacks or destroys these plants in the field before you harvest, or even before it grows, it may attack the crop. But also when you talk about storage pest, storage, it means now it affects the crop or attacks the crop or the plants after it has been matured or after it has been harvested and stored in the stores. Now we will start by discussing a field pest, and this field pest, they have the examples of those field pests. Number one, we have the field pest called aphids. Now when you're talking about aphids, you have to get that these aphids, they are insects. These ones are insects. We have pests that are insects, we have those that are worms, and we have maybe those that are just big animals. So we discuss aphids as an insect. Now for every pest, it has specific parts and specific crops that it attacks. Now you should understand which crops are attacked by aphids and which are the parts that are attacked by the aphids. Now when you start by this, we have the aphids attacks mainly the cabbages, beans, oranges, and maize and kales. Now we may get, when you take a maize plant after harvesting, when you look keenly inside the seeds, you may get that we have small insects within that. These are called aphids. Now what are the effects of these aphids? Every pest has its own effects. Now the aphids, number one, it sucks the plant, and when it sucks the plant, it means now that it will leave that plant without any liquid or water inside. Now if it sucks the sap of the plant, it means now the plant will have to dry up. If the plant dry up, it means this plant may die. Number two, these aphids, they have moved from different crops to other crops. Now it may get that now it has moved from a plant that has a certain disease. Now it sucks the sap of that plant and move to a maize plant, and it spreads the disease from the first crop to another crop. That's why we say now it leads to spread of diseases. That is still on aphids. Now after the aphids have destroyed the leaf of a plant, for example, this is a maize plant and this is the leaf. It leaves patches, and mostly those patches are brown in color. That's now we say it leaves a brown patch on that plant. Number two, under field pests, we are going to talk about the cutworms. Now from the word cut, it means these ones are pests that now they cut on the base of this maize plant. We may get that we have that worm that now moves within and it cuts the base of that plant. When it cuts the base of this plant, it means the upper plant will not have any support. We say that we discuss the importance of the roots. Now imagine how the plant has been cut by the cutworm. Now it has left hanging on the environment. It means now it has to fall off. If it fall off, it means it will die. That's now we say cutworms are worms. They attack mainly crops, that's cabbages, tomatoes, beans, Irish potatoes. Now we said it cuts the stem at the base. So hence it leads to death of that plant. So the effect of cutworm, it leads to death of the plant, and also it may lead to spread of diseases. We move to the third pest, and still on the field pest, we have the pest called the stalk borer. Now when we are talking about the stalk borer, these are now it's a level stage of insects. The insects, they have some stages now, but now a stalk borer is just a stage. That's a level stage of insects. What is the plants that are affected by mostly the stalk borers? Number one, we talk of the maize, millets, sorghum, sugarcane. Now, what is the effect of these stalk borers? From the word, the last part of it is a borer, meaning it bores, it gives the holes, it bores a hole on a plant. For example, this is a maize plant. Now you may get that inside this maize plant, you have an insect moving inside, and now it leaves a hole here. Now these holes, they are left with what an insect or a pest which is called a stalk borer. Now when you get to your field and you get now your crops have some holes, that is the presence of stalk borer as a pest. We move to now the fourth pest on field pest. We are going to discuss about weaver bats. Now when you talk about birds, these are examples of birds. Mostly they are yellowish in color with a black strips. Now this mainly attacks cereals. That is, we gave examples of cereals where we discussed maize, sorghum, millet, and rice. Now it eats mainly these crops. It attacks the crops mainly during their young stage or before they mature, and also after maturity. You may get that on a maize plant, in the stage called the milk stage of maize plant, during the milk stage, you get that now this weaver bats attacks the crop and eats the grains. Maybe this is a maize crop, and this is the seeds. Now it eats the grains, specifically the grains, either during the milk stage or when they have matured. Now after that, those are the examples of the field pests and also the effects and the plants that they attack. Now we have the second part where you are going to discuss about the storage pest. We say the field pest and storage pest. Now under this storage pest, obviously I've already defined it. They attack the crops when they are stored in the stores. Now examples, we have what we call the rodents. What are rodents? Now rodents, these are animals, mostly we call them the gnawing animals. These gnawing animals, they include the rats, mice. Most of you know rats and also mice. Now mainly they damage the grains. For example, when you have stored your maize plants or your maize crop grains and also bean grains, you may take that now when you move inside there, you get some rats inside them. Now they eat the grains and also they destroy the stored plants. Also we have an example of a stored pest. That is the storage pest. We have the weevils. Now weevils, maybe if I can use an example of this. Now when you look here, this one, it has a sharper mouth end. This sharper mouth end, it is used now to make holes, to bore holes on maize grain. You may get that a stored maize grain. For example, this is a seed of the maize plant. Now you get that now we have a hole inside. These holes are caused by the pest we call weevils. Now this, it has a sharper mouth part that now helps it now to pour holes on the seeds, that's the stored seeds of maize. Now if we can move to another example of pest, that's storage pest. Now storage pest, we have also a termite. Termites, mostly, if again I can use this as an example, this is a termite. Now termites, mainly they are insects. They are also insects, but now they eat the insides. Mainly they eat the insides of either a stem, or also they burst holes on the benches, that the holes. Well, maybe these are fences, if this is a fence, but now we have used the posts. When you use a post to make a fence, finally you may get that now we have those insects that eat that post at the underground. They also pour holes inside that, hence weakening the post, that will lead to destruction of that fence. And also, when a real example, when you plant your maize seed and during that, before it germinates, you may get that we have some insects that eat that seed before it germinates. That's also, they are known as the termites. These termites mainly, they eat the grains, and also after planting they also eat the mature seeds. For example, when you plant a maize seed and this maize plant, the seeds fall down. When it falls down, you get that at the end of the day, when you want to harvest, you get that now we have some insects eating the seeds of that seed, the mature maize plant. Hence, that one, those are what we call the termites. Now, the effects of these termites, number one, they destroy the plant and hence weakening the plants to grow. For example, if they eat the bark of a stem, the barks of the stem plant. Now, if they eat, for example, timber, the timbers are destroyed, hence it leads to some losses to industries. Next, after discussing the storage pest and field pest, we are now going to discuss the effects. Now, the general effects. Here we have discussed the essential effects of each pest. But now we want to discuss now what are the general effects of these pests. Number one, they lower the yield. They lower yield. Now, lowering the yield, it means it reduces the amount of this crop yield. That's the harvest. For example, in an acre, maybe you used to harvest maybe 10 kg of maize. Now, if you may get at the end of the day, if you have pests that, for example, cutworm, if they attack your maize plant, you may get at the end of the day you have that reduction in the production, maybe from 10 to 5. That means it has reduced the yield. Number two, we talk of it reduces the quality. Now, when you talk of the quality, this is the goodness of that thing. For example, a plant, either it may be grow thinner or unhealthy plants. Now, we have different leaves. We have those leaves that are destroyed with the pest. For example, this one, it has been destroyed by the pest. Now, when you look at this leaf at each center, it looks nice, it's healthy. But when you look at the edges, it has been eaten by some pests. So this means it has destroyed the quality of this leaf. And if it destroys the quality of this leaf, it means it affects also photosynthesis of this plant. When it affects the photosynthesis part of this plant, it means it affects also the yield of this plant, because photosynthesis leads to manufacturing of food, and that manufacturing of food is what we call the yield. Now, that is under the reduction in the quality and also the lowering of the yield. Now, if you observe here, these are two leaves. The first one has already turned yellow because of the presence of these pests, small black pests that you see there. And also you see they have already destroyed the part of that plant, hence lowering the quality of this leaf. When you observe this, at the edges it is straight, but here it has curled. Why? When you open it inside, you get that now it has been curled because of the presence of the pest inside. Now, this pest destroys the plant, hence leading to either lowering the quality, hence lowering the yield of that plant. Now, we have transmission of diseases. Transmission of diseases. What leads to these plants to change its color? It changes the color either because of the spread of these diseases. We have those diseases that are carried by pests from one plant to another. When we were discussing about the field pest, we said the cutworms, and also we discussed the aphids, that they spread diseases. When they sucks from one plant to another plant, it leads to either the turning of the plant or lowering the yield, and hence spreading of those diseases. These diseases weakens the stem of the plants. It may weaken the leaves, and also it weakens the fruits. You have those fruits that are harvested, but now they lost their shape, and also mostly when you look at the edges of the tomato plant, you get that the lower edges is now destroyed. When this lower edges is destroyed, it may be presence of some pests, and also this disease is mainly called the blossom end rot. When you go to secondary level, you'll discuss the blossom end rot and what causes blossom end rot. Now, we move to the fourth effect. The fourth effect of these pests on crops, we talk about it causes diseases to consumers. What are consumers? When we were discussing last time on dependence, we discussed about the producer and consumers. The consumer, we said we either have the primary consumer and secondary consumer. Now, we have primary consumers. When they feed directly to the crops, you get that now they may feed direct to fungal diseases or bacterial diseases. those bacterial infections may move from the plants to the primary consumer, and if the primary consumer are fed on by the secondary consumer, the diseases keep on spreading until it reaches to tertiary level of the food chain. Now, last part of today, we will discuss under the weeds, that's the ways in which now we can control this the pests. We discussed the way we can control weeds, but now today we will discuss the ways in now how we can control pests. In agriculture, we must have a way in which now we can carry out control. Number one, we can carry out the control of pests by use of what we call the pesticides. Now, pesticides, these are just chemicals that are used now to control the pests. Now, these chemicals, mainly, we have different chemicals that are used to control different pests. We have those chemicals that can be used to control aphids. We have those chemicals that can be used to control cutworms. We have those chemicals that can be used to control armyworms. So different chemicals are used to control different pests. Now that one, the procedure is by spraying. You spray the chemical, that is you mix with water, then you carry out what we call spraying. That's the first control of crop pest. The second control of crop pest is about trapping. Now, when you discuss about trapping, we use what we call a pest trap. A pest trap, this is a structure that is well made so that now it can trap mainly, it traps mainly, those are rodents. For example, this is an example of a trap. This trap here, when you look down here, we have what we call a rat. This rat, inside here, we mainly put there what we call a bait trap. We have what we call a bait. When you ask to talk about a bait, this is anything that is used to attract the insects or to attract the pest so that now it enters into a trap and then it is closed there. That, for example, we control the rodents, and we gave out the examples of rodents. Now, number three, we have what we call weeding. Weeding is commonly used in small-scale farmers, where now the farm is very small, you cannot apply chemicals. Chemicals is used mainly in large-scale farming. Now, what is weeding? When you talk of weeding, this is just the removal of unwanted crops in the plant, in the farm. For example, this is all it is a maize plant. Now, this is a maize plant, but in between we have some weeds. Now, some weeds that also attracts pests. We have some weeds that are pest attractive, or also they harbor the production of more pests. Now these weeds must be removed so that now we cannot have that spread of weed that spread of pests from the weeds to the plants that we have. Number four, we are going to talk about pruning. What's pruning at first of all? Now pruning, this is just the removal of a branch or unwanted part of the crop. Now, if this is if this is my crop and I want to prune, either I will carry out to remove either this part because I don't need it. Now, this way, mostly the unwanted parts are either affected by pests, or they may be the place where now there is reproduction of those pests. Now we carry out removal. For example, this is the crop. Now when I cut off this part, either it has diseases, it may have diseases, it also may be affected by pests. So that the removal is what we call now pruning. Now, this pruning is done by use of some instruments. The instruments that are used to prune, mainly they are the pruning saws and also what we call the scratchers. And in common cases, most people use pangas to prune. So that is all about pruning. Now, number 5, under the ways in which now we can control pests is by scaring. From the word scare, it means you use something that can scare away some pests. We talked about weaver bats. Now here, the use of scaring, we make some things that they look like a human being. For example, if I can have mine here, let me just use this. Now, when you observe here, this one, here, this is a maize plant. These are maize plants, but inside the maize plant we have a structure that looks exactly like a human being. Now this structure here, if somebody asks you to give the name of this structure, is what we call now the scarecrows. These scarecrows are made so that now they can scare away, mainly the pest that is scared away is the weaver bats. This one is used mainly to control weaver bats. Now, the Sixth way in which now we can control pests is by use of our hands, that is hand picking. Also, hand picking is used mainly in small scales. When now a farmer decides just to pick away the pests, you go to the plant, you observe your plant has a cutworm, you pick away the cutworm and destroy it. You pick away an aphid and destroy it. And if also when you get a weaver bat, you hit it and also take it away. That's by use of your hands, that is hand picking. Now those are all about the ways in which now we can control pests, and also this is now the effects of pests. We have the examples of pests, the effects and the parts of crops that are affected, and also we have the types of pests that affect crops. Now generally you must understand what is a pest, examples of pests, and also the types. The most important part that most people do confuse is the effects of pests and the specificity of those pests. What's the crops that are attacked by pests, what are those crops, and what is the pest, what are the parts that are affected. No, so generally you have to understand all the crop pests, the methods to control that are affected by those pests. That is all about today's lesson. Let's meet next lesson, inshallah.